The 2024 Ambetter Health 400 at Atlanta has already fallen into legend as one of the greatest finishes in NASCAR history. I won't argue with that, even as somebody who still dislikes the current reconfiguration of the Atlanta track. Three-wide finishes are extremely rare, and three-wide photo finishes are practically unheard of. Some have even gone as far to say that this is the greatest race in NASCAR history. This, I feel, is worth discussing. It also raises a question I feel NASCAR is themselves trying to solve. What makes a great race? The way I see it, great finishes happen every once in a while. Right away, you think about Tony Stewart muscling Denny Hamlin out of the way at Sears Point in 2016. You think of Dale Jarrett inching ahead of Davey Allison at Michigan in 1991. You think of Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin banging doors at Fontana in 2013, letting Kyle Busch make his way through. But be honest, in all three cases, would you sit down and watch the entire race from start to finish, or would you just pull up video of the last lap? I thought so. That is a critical difference between a great finish and a great race. Would you watch the entire race? Rewatch value is the highest standard. It requires a perfect combination of action on the track, storylines involving as much of the field as possible, and a showcase of driver skill. Dale Earnhardt counting down the laps in the 1998 Daytona 500, trying to hold off Bobby Labonte and those tough Penske teammates of Rusty Wallace and Jeremy Mayfield. Rookie Kevin Harvick racing like a veteran in the 2001 Cracker Barrel 500 at Atlanta, mixing it up with Dale Jarrett, Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, and Jerry Nadeau. It's Kurt Busch taking the lead from Elliott Sadler in the 2003 Carolina Dodge Dealers 400 at Darlington, only to be caught by Ricky Craven, then Dave Blaney, leading to the closest finish in NASCAR history. You're not just watching cars go by, you're watching people battle each other for position. So let's take a closer look at the Atlanta race. Right off the bat, we had a huge story in qualifying. Michael McDowell with his first pole position in his 467th series start. We also had controversy, not simply the parts penalties for Ryan Preece and Noah Gragson, but more intriguingly, Joey Logano wearing an illegal glove with webbed fingers. In the race, there was the compelling storyline of Todd Gilliland, who had a career night, leading a race-high 58 laps. There was also the jaw-dropping four-wide pass completed by Austin Cindric, after which the field managed to not crash. One of 14 leaders who traded the lead 48 times in just 400 miles without a single overtime. All this on top of the three-wide photo finish are definitely points in favor of this being a great race. Now, I've deliberately left out that big wreck on lap 2. The Fox broadcast fell all over itself to tell you that they wadded up more cars in that wreck than any Atlanta wreck in history, 16 in total, and that was awesome. But did that make it a good race? No. It was good in spite of that crash. Big field clearing wrecks in the opening laps tend to make races boring because there's not enough drivers left to compete. Think of the 27-car wipeout 15 laps into the 2002 Busch Series race at Talladega, the 11-car wreck on lap 18 at Dover in the spring of 2008, or the 16-car wreck 14 laps into the 2021 Daytona 500. All three wrecks had a negative effect on the competition in each race. You don't even have to look back that far. This year's Daytona 500 featured some of the most intense racing in years, right up to the moment the big wreck struck in the final 9 laps. But Atlanta's wreck was different. When the dust settled, just one driver, Josh Williams, failed to complete another lap. Only one other driver, Noah Gragson, eventually parked his car due to damage from that crash. These were 2 of only 8 drivers who failed to finish. The other 6 were all due to later incidents, and each of those involved no more than 3 cars. Of the 29 remaining cars on track, 22 finished on the lead lap, including both 15th place Chase Elliott and 22nd place Austin Dillon, who both sustained significant damage on lap 2. Elliott even climbed back into the top 5 for a moment before a spin dropped him back again. So again, the wreck didn't make the race better. Whether the car's rigidity, the team's ingenuity, or just plain dumb luck, the race was saved by the fact that so many drivers continued to race after it. Again, this is not a complaint. This is a point toward it being a great race. Similarly, one thing that I particularly liked about this race was how the field managed to stay in one big pack. During this same weekend, both the Truck Series race and Xfinity Series race saw 1 or 2 cars at a time lose touch with the pack, forcing the leaders to take evasive action to swerve around them. We'd also seen this in some of the last few Cup races since the reconfiguration, but we didn't see that on Sunday. You may be tempted to say that the overall quality of the Cup field has improved, the gap between the fastest and slowest cars has been reduced. This may be true. In the 3 Atlanta races since the reconfiguration, where Cup qualifying was completed, this year saw 34 of the 37 entrants within 1 second of each other in the first round, compared to last year, which saw 30 of 37 in the summer and 32 of 36 in the spring. However, the tightness of the field is more easily explained by the flow of the race itself, or rather the lack of one. It can't be overlooked that 10 cautions consumed an entire 1/4 of the race's laps. Just one green flag run went longer than 22 laps. What racing we did see was tight and competitive because drivers hardly had a chance to settle into a rhythm or to test the endurance of their cars. It was a 400-mile game of red light, green light. Such racing is not unprecedented. Right away, it reminded me of the 2005 Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, a more than 5-hour gauntlet with 22 cautions taking up just over 1/4 of the race distance. Only 3 green flag runs were longer than 20 laps, including the last 4, which were each no longer than 7. Plenty of wrecks, plenty of restarts, and yes, even a photo finish with last lap pass. It was a great finish, much like Atlanta 2024, a finish that continues to be replayed over and over. But was the 2005 Coca-Cola 600 a great race? Is it something that fans are willing to watch from beginning to end? No. It wasn't considered such at the time, nor is it today. The reason was the cause for all the cautions. During the pre-2005 repave of Charlotte, track officials selected a process called levigation to try and smooth out the bumpy surface. But all this did was cause flat tires, big wrecks, and force the track to repave all over again the next year. This, however, is a key difference from Atlanta 2024. While the track was reconfigured 2 years ago, there was no dramatic change made to the track prior to this year. If anything, the surface is aging. And most critically, the crashes we saw were not the result of blown tires, requiring a repave. It may have been as simple as the result of hard racing, which of course is what we all want to see. So I suppose one could say, so long as you don't mind waiting through all the caution laps, the 2024 Ambetter Health 400 was a great race. While I feel personally that long green flag runs have historically been responsible for some of the sport's greatest races, this may well be the exception. It wasn't a marathon, but a series of intense sprints with an undeniably great finish. At Atlanta, the last 2 sprints were only 4 and 5 laps, shorter even than the winner-take-all final segment of most All-Star races. The All-Star race. You know, that reminds me, changing gears a bit, why does Atlanta need to have 2 400-mile dates? If it produces such great racing in 20-lap bursts, why not have Atlanta host the All-Star race instead? Set aside one weekend for a night of, say, 5 20-lap segments with cautions already planned out. The All-Star race could certainly use it. Charlotte hasn't produced a good All-Star race since arguably 2009, levigation or none, and the format hasn't translated well at Texas, Bristol, or even North Wilkesboro. Swapping Atlanta for Wilkesboro could also give the short track a chance to host 400-lap races again, as it had for decades. The Truck Series race certainly showed how entertaining a longer race there can be, and now the track has new pavement. The thought would make any NASCAR historian laugh. The last time the All-Star race was run in Atlanta was Mother's Day in 1986, when Bill Elliott dominated an utterly boring afternoon. But times have changed. Now I can hardly think of a better venue. You can run all the gimmicks you want, run as many stages as you want for just a few laps at a time, field inversions, all that, and you practically guaranteed some wild racing no matter what. It wouldn't be surprising for drivers to tear up their cars. It would be expected, as it was dating back to one hot night. I tweeted as much about this after the race, and it didn't get near as many dislikes as I anticipated. So I'll ask you, would Atlanta be the perfect venue for the All-Star race? And what is something you expect to be a part of a great race? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.
In America, there exists a sport that is driven by the fans. They are why everyone works so hard, on the teams and at the tracks, in front of the grandstands and behind the scenes, to give the fans the greatest race possible. NASCAR fans deserve the best, starting from the high banks of Daytona, all the way to the shores of California, and at every race in between. NASCAR fans, you're the reason for our success. Thanks.